Right, so I've taken the other 551 apart. I've got the crossover there and the mid and tweeter attenuation board there. So first thing we're going to do is rebuild those, get some new wiring on them. I've got the other one back together. So there we go. Pete's asked me to leave them alone cosmetically and just get them sounding at their best. So we've got new components in that, new wiring, and that one's all back together. So we'll test the drivers on the second one as well. There's a cabinet down there, and we will get cracking with the crossover. There's a couple of things that I'm doing a little bit differently to what I originally thought or hoped to do, really just to help anyone else further down the line who may work on these. Hopefully they won't need touching again, but yeah, I'll go through that and show you what I did with the other one, and it's worked out well. Right, here we go with the crossover then. What I will do is test the inductors and things as we go. So there's quite a few on there. So on the tweeter circuit we've got a 3.3 and a, interestingly it's an 8 in this, and the other it was a 7. I think it's meant to be a 7 because I've done some of these crossovers before and that's always been a 7. And we've got a 72 microfarad there, 24 and a, what's that one, a 12 I think. These are on the mid circuit, those are on the tweeter circuit, so a third order. And then we've got a second order on the woofer. We've got this inductor here, a couple of 30s making a 60 down to ground, and then the rest of this is all concerned with the mid-range. These two are some form of notch filter I think, but we'll have a look as we take it apart. Right, so this inductor here, so 0.42 millihenry. I've had a few issues with the inductors on some of these Celestion speakers in the past. They're just, the lead wires just aren't pushed through very far, and I've had a couple of crossovers where they've just literally been poked in and nicked with a bit of solder and nothing else, and they've just come out. So yeah, not particularly great. Right, I'm going to go through the rest of these because I think we did them on the other video, and then I'll show you what's what. Right, so that's our inductors all measured, so 0.42, 0.8, 4.41, 2.18 and 0.14. So yeah, right, time to do these caps. We'll do them one at a time. Bank holiday Monday today. We do, we test all these at the end, see how far out we were. Right, so we've got 3.3 that goes in here, so there's our 3.3, so we just need to dress the leg slightly to get that in. So as I've probably mentioned before, I like to bend these back against the track, not just push them through, so you get good contact. Right, so next we do this 8, which actually is a 7. Beauty. So there's a bit of a tight squeeze in there, but they do fit. Lovely. Right, I'm going to crack on with the rest. You've seen me do this numerous times, and then we'll have a look at that. So unfortunately on the old YouTube channel I had to block a couple of people recently, which I hate doing. I like people's comments and I welcome comments and constructive criticism, but what I don't like is armchair experts who have no fucking clue what they're talking about, but they still rage an opinion. Yeah, so just unnecessary nonsense. I even had one guy correct my spelling of there on a comment I made. So I'd spelt it T-H-E-R-E and it should have been T-H-E-I-R. I mean, for fuck's sake, get a life. Yeah, that's what you're up against. So it does piss you off sometimes, but you shouldn't rise to it. But yeah, there's some idiots. One particular guy, I could guarantee within 5 or 10 minutes of uploading the video there'd be some critical comment that would come out, which, you know, it makes me feel a little bit sorry for these people. Their life must be pretty boring to just wait around for new videos to drop that they can jump on and criticize. It's nasty. Don't do it. Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm ranting about it. It doesn't bother me. It's just annoying. Life is complex enough without idiots like that. Thankfully, I'm lucky with the community of people I've got that follow my channel and comment, and it's good. Like I say, I've got nothing against criticism as long as it's constructive and it's come from someone that actually knows what they're talking about. But there you go. Anyway, rant over. Right, so that's this board recapped. So we got a 3.3 and a 7 with this inductor on the tweeter circuit. So polys on the tweeter to pull out a bit more clarity, and we did have that in the tweeter circuit, which is obviously much better than electrolytic. So yeah, improvements on that. The remainder are owl caps, electrolytic owl caps, which is what we used. They were electrolytics originally. I'm quite a fan of these. Again, like with most of the Dittons, if you jump in here and start pulling all these out, fitting polypropylene capacitors everywhere, you will cause issues with the speaker. I have done an A/B comparison on most of them. I have also done impedance sweeps on them using DATs, and there's definite issues. The speakers weren't voiced with those, so I don't think it's a good idea to fit them. My experience is they just become harsh, shouty. Yeah, just doesn't work. I've got a pair of Ditton 44s here at the moment that I'm refurbishing, but they're going out the door quite quickly. I am going to do a video probably on the 44, because I know it well, all about the bits and pieces on it, and then I think what I'll do a version of the crossover just with polys, and try and do some sound clips and some impedance sweeps, and then do the same with using electrolytics and poly on the tweeter, so you can actually hear and see the difference and the reasons why you stick with these. But anyway, right, so that's all done. So next we're going to have a look at this. I've done the other one, and they're a bit tricky to do actually. So we've got the board here that's held in just by this nut on the fuse carrier. We've got these cables here that go to our pots, one for the mid-range, one for the tweeter, one capacitor and 5 resistors. So I'm going to replace all of those. What I've kind of realised is replacing these short lengths of wire here for something a little better is a bit pointless really, because we've got these pots in circuit. So I haven't bothered on the other one. I'm not going to on this one as well, obviously, but I will test the pots. I will clean them, get some deoxic in there, because they're a little bit scratchy, and make sure they're doing what they should. We have a little fuse fail circuit here, so we've got a couple of diodes in there. Obviously we're not doing anything with those, and what I was going to do was delete the plug, but what that means is I've got to solder directly from here to the crossover, and that means if you ever have to take this out, you've got to desolder it. And after a lot of umming and ahhing, I decided that wasn't a great idea. So I'm directly soldering cables to this. So we delete the plug, which is here. So we're going to get rid of that. So our input to the crossover, cables to the woofer, mid-range and tweeter will all be decent high purity copper. I will directly solder the 5 wires. So these 5 that go to our L-pad board, I will also directly solder those to the board. But then what I did with the other was clip this plug off and solder our wires onto these tails and heat shrink, because unfortunately you need to be able to remove this, and if I solder the cables together, then you've got to desolder it one end to get these out. Yeah, and it's, considering there's 5 cables, it's just not going to be easy. So I think for future maintenance even, that's the way to do it. You know, we're replacing as much as we can, but we also need to be a bit practical about it. And you know, these sound bloody good anyway, so anything is an improvement. Right, okay, let's have a look at this. Right, so I'll undo that nut, and then that allows me to slide the board back. You have to unclip the retainer off the LED socket, and then you can pull it out. So you need to try and get that nut over the wires, which is a bit bloody fiddly, like so, and then you can get that off, or at least pull it out, so you can work on it. So now I can desolder these. Interestingly, they've got holes further up, so I don't know whether there was an intention to use different resistors, something longer. Don't know, but yeah. So I'll get these desoldered and start soldering in the new ones. So that's all our new resistors soldered in there. A bit tricky. You have to be a bit careful where you're, because these are a lot longer. Like for there, for instance, you want to avoid the legs on the LED, and also here as well. Some of it gets a bit close, but yeah, all on there. Before I forget, so LED back in the hole. Get our nut back over the fuse carrier. And that's all that really holds that in. I can't get a spanner in there. Hence the old long nose pliers in there. And then our retainer on the back of the LED holds that in. So I've put this tape on here because as I was drilling out these, there's like little vents on the back of these, and I don't want any of the dust from the PCB going inside these. And then there's that insulator there that stops anything shorting on this. So yeah, a bit of a naffy design really, but there we go. Right, so we'll check these pots next, make sure they're doing what they should. Right, so this is the pot on the mid, and we've got a resistive wire between this and this, and then the wiper in the middle draws out here. And as you adjust this, this resistance stays constant, but this changes in reference to these. So let's just see what we've got. Okay, so the resistive loop, if you want to look at it that way, is 23 ohms. So what we should see, we clip onto that in relationship to here. As we adjust this, our resistance changes. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah. And what I'm looking for is any sections where we get huge jumps like that. So there's a section of the pot there that's a bit dirty. So we should be seeing a consistent rise in the resistance. But from time to time, we're hitting much higher than we should. This is likely just a coil of wire all the way around with a wiper that rubs against it, so there are probably like some dead spots, but now it's pretty consistent. So I think that needs a good clean. Okay. So crudely inside that pot, what we've got is our resistive wire. Like that. This probably carries on to, let's say, the mid-range, and then we have the wiper in the middle. So our crossover circuit is going to see a constant impedance, so its tuning frequency will stay the same, and we can adjust the power to this by using the wiper up and down. That's basically how it works. Right, so I'm going to get those cleaned, put them back together, job done. Right, so all our wires are soldered on here now. So we've got our tweeter cable, mid-range, woofer, and our input. So really good high purity copper, and then copper again off to our L pad. So what I now need to do is clip this off and solder this onto these. So in order to do that, I'm going to strip these back a bit. So this is steel, which is not great. That's why I get good results by rewiring these crossovers and deleting these plugs. But in the case of the L pad, and the fact that they would be soldered together and you wouldn't be able to remove the crossover or the L pad without desoldering a load of wires, yeah, obviously I'm retaining the plug for that reason, and a few inches of this wire, but the rest of it's all directly soldered. So big improvements where we can. So what I'll do, I'll show you one of these. So the way I do them is heat shrink, then halfway, twist them round on each other, so they're nice like that, and then solder them together so we're completely soldered. Slide our heat shrink over. And there we go. Nice. Right, there we go. So let's twist those up a bit, and cable tie around them. Jubbly jubbly. Right, so our crossover's in there now, and new binding posts. So got rid of the old steel things. I've got some nice brass banana plug terminals on there, so you can get a banana plug in there, unscrew it and drop a wire in if you want. So yeah, much nicer. Right, so these are all back together. So the woofers, I've gone around the rubber surrounds with some rubber treatment that I used, which you've probably seen in other videos. So they're lovely and supple, and I've cleaned the cones. Mid-ranges are good. These are a little dented, but Pete has said just to leave them. He's going to probably give them a cosmetic go over. Yeah, so all back together, all looking good. New binding posts on the back. So final thing to do with these is to give them a proper measure up, and then we will have a listen to them. So what I'll do, I'll shoot a part 3 video where I will do the measurements, and we'll do a comparison with what we recorded before to see where the improvements are in terms of the measurements, and then I'll play a few of the test tracks that I normally play, get those recorded, and yeah, you can have a listen. But yeah, they've turned out well. They're a really good speaker, So I'm quite looking forward to listening to these. I did listen to them before I did the work, and they were good. So whilst your kind of ear memory isn't that good, hopefully I'll be able to tell the difference. I did make some notes, so we shall see. Anyway, thanks for watching. Right, just finally, I'm sure some of you will want to know how far out some of these components were. So I'm using this meter because the ESR value of these components is just as important as their capacitance. So let's have a look. So this should be a 24. So 29, and the ESR is like nothing. So yeah, what's that? 2.4 will be 10%, so quite far out. Right, let's have a look at this. This is a 12. And that's 15, so 1.2 will be 10%, so we're way out on that. A 72. Measuring 86. So yeah, 7.2 would be 10%. So these are all above 10% out. That 24 is more like 20%. This should be an 8. Eleven point 11.6 miles out. Another 72. $84. We've got here 1.5. These tend to hold up reasonably well. Uh, 1.35. So yeah, another 12. 14.6. 30. $34.5, so 3 would be 10%, so yeah, again we are above 10%. Another 30. $3.6. Our ESR has crept up a bit on that one. Another 30. $38. Blimey. So 3 would be 10%, so that's getting on for 30% out. Yowzers. At 30 is 35, so yeah, again over 10%. Another 24 here. $27.6. 7. $8.9. Well, actually more like 9. And our ESR is up a bit on that one. What's this one? 30. Another 30. 35.7. And another 30 to finish off with. $40, blimey. So yeah, a third, 33%. Let's just do this 3.3. Again, like I say, these tend to hold up quite well. 3.24, yeah, so that's pretty good. Excuse me. Right, so all above 10%, some of them 25, 30%. Yeah, piss poor, so that's why we replaced them. Anyway, cheers.